I know it's been a long time since I've actually done anything with this channel. I had this high-minded thing that I was going to do, like reviews and all kinds of dumb shit with it, but I never ended up doing any of that. I think my last video that I posted on here was like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But I just had an idea today because I helped a friend put a set of knuckles on his Miata. Now they only added like about 8 degrees of steering angle. He traded a set of wheels for them, so it wasn't a big deal. But anyway, I have his old knuckles right here. I have these suckers. And I figure, well, I've got a welder. I've got the tools. So why don't I just try to do it myself? You know? I mean, to be honest, I have no idea what I'm fucking doing. But I figure I'll give it a shot. See these backing plates that are on here? Yeah, I've got to cut those off. You know? Because everything's better with sparks. Everything's better when it's loud. Everything's better cutting things, you know? Everything is much better that way. Let's see. Okay, so after some hammering and grinding and what have you, pretty much I've got it off. I just need to grab a set of pliers here, pull it apart. At least I think. Okay, maybe not. But okay, that's going. Probably better off trying to get this side. Yeah, this is a bit of a pain in the ass. This part. I've never liked these backing plates. As far as I've seen, they don't really serve a whole lot of purpose other than being a pain in the ass. For that, they're quite good at it. They're very good at being a pain in the ass. Alright. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, the Miata knuckle. It's so small. Like, the hub is pretty much bigger than the knuckle. Wow. Alright. So, basically, I guess the next step of this is I'm going to, what I have to do is I have to basically cut this arm. I need to shorten it about 1.5 inches. So this is going to be the interesting bit for me, because I've never done this before, is how am I going to accurately get that 1.5 inches and do it on both sides. Because it isn't just about doing it on one side, it's about doing it on both sides. So, I'm going to try to figure that out in a second. Measuring this, and I could be completely wrong doing the way that I'm doing this, and I'm not saying this is the right way, but this is how I'm doing it at the moment. Alright, right now I am looking at, it is about just under 4¼ inches center to center on these holes. Alright, I want to reduce this by 1.5 inches. Now the reason I'm saying 1.5 inches is because of the fact that the last set of knuckles that we put on Cody's car. The set of knuckles we put on Cody's car they had been shortened 1¼ inches. They only added about 8 degrees of steering angle, and from the looks of it within the wheel well, there was plenty of space for more. I mean, he wasn't hitting anything. There was no clearance issues at all. He had like 1 inch, 2 inches before he was rubbing anywhere, and that was on some pretty high offset wheels. I mean, they were basically about stock 14s. So, you know, he's got the clearance. So I figure we'd go a little bit more on these. just a little bit more. So instead of 1¼ inches shorter, we're going to go 1½. So it's another 1/4 inch. Might add another couple degrees of steering angle. Now, as for Ackerman, which if you don't know what Ackerman is, there's a lot of people. Basically, what it is that you see how this is not exactly in the same plane as this. There's like an angle that draws out this direction. Well, what that does is it makes the steering, when you go full lock, that the leading wheel will end up having more steering angle than the trailing wheel. So like you end up with the leading wheels like this, the trailing wheel on this side is less. And what that does is it counteracts for the arc between the two wheels when you're turning in, say, like a slow speed situation, like a parking lot. That's typically the slow speed maneuvers are usually what Ackerman is very good for. Ackerman makes it so that your tires don't wear a lot, and also that you get good contact patch. Because when you're turning into a slow speed situation, you're making a tight arc, and when you're making a tight arc, the leading wheel is turning in a smaller circle than the outside wheel. The outside wheel has to travel further, so it's going to be basically, you're going to have this, right? And that's going to follow that arc. But for drifting, we want to reduce Ackerman. We don't want to get completely rid of it, but we want to reduce Ackerman, because now you think about that same situation. You're at, say, full lock in a drift. Well, the inside tire is basically getting drug along in that same arc, because the arc is not really tight anymore, because the front end is mainly following about the same arc. Now, when you have it to where they're completely equal, which we call parallel steer, no Ackerman. That used to be thought that was the proper way to do it, that everybody had it in their mind that was what you wanted. And upon people actually doing parallel steer on their cars, come to find out that actually is not the case. It's not really from a performance standpoint, but it's from a feel standpoint. It's from a drivability standpoint. Because performance-wise, yeah, zero Ackerman theoretically is, I just dropped that shit. But theoretically, zero Ackerman is where you want to be. Come to find out that driving a car with zero Ackerman is kind of shit. It gets rid of your self-steer. It gets rid of a lot of your steering feel. And it mainly makes it to where you're driving with a dead wheel. I mean, it sucks. It's not that much fun. Reverse Ackerman, there's a certain company out there with blue parts that initially most of their stuff was negative Ackerman. And negative Ackerman is kind of interesting because it kind of makes the car want to park itself at like full lock, like at the apex of the turn, which isn't really what you want. I don't want it. It's really good for like drifting around a pole or a cone, but I mean, as far as a performance aspect, I mean, like it's one of the easiest things to do. You don't need to make it easier. All right, so what I'm going to do is to reduce the Ackerman, like I was saying, is if I were to make this hole right here, if I were to make that hole equal with, say, this line right here, the center to center of these two holes were the same, that would equal out to parallel steer. But I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this pickup point for the tie rod, and I'll move this inward, but I'm only going to move it in about a 1/2 inch. Now, look, I know I said I didn't know what I'm doing, and that is kind of true. I mean, I understand all the theoretical stuff for this, but I have never actually done it. So I'm going to try to reduce the Ackerman, basically move this about a 1/2 inch. I don't want to move it too much though, because I don't want to end up with parallel steer. I have not run these curves in a computer. I have not run these curves in SolidWorks or anything like that. I have not really done much research on Miata specific stuff. I just basically looked at what those other knuckles did. And I'm doing something similar, but you know, just a little bit different than what they're doing. Not exactly copying, but yeah, I figure. I have these knuckles left over from when we did Cody. These are Cody's old knuckles, so if I fuck it up, it's not a big deal. Cut through that steel knuckle like a fucking, well, a grinder through metal. That's what it did. Right, Joe?
Yeah.
So, we're going to basically put that right about there. So I need to bevel this down. This down's going to get beveled now. And then that's going to basically make it to where I've got a nice valley that I can tack this together. And
fill both those sides.
Yeah, so I'm gonna bevel this down now. I've got a nice bevel here, nice little point for me to fucking get to, and then I can just. Okay, so basically I've got the I've got this set up. Not really that great, but it holds it, so then I can tack it. I've got this all beveled and sort of like set to where I can kind of get it, you know, in the spot where I need it. I'm gonna go right about there, I believe. Actually, let's do that, because that's less Ackerman than stock. It's a lot shorter. Let's see, what are we at? Instead of 4 1/4 inches center to center, we're at right about 3, which is exactly where I wanted it to be, because then that's going to be 1.5 inches shorter than stock. So that should be more steering angle than what we did with Cody's car, because that one was only 1 1/4 inches shorter than stock. I'm not even really sure how I ended up with this like freehand. I just freehanded all of this, and it actually ended up being exactly what I wanted. Good tape. Okay, so now time to set up the welder and get to tacking. Starting working on the second knuckle. The thing I was kind of worried about, since, well, I'm not really an engineer, is whether or not I'd be able to actually get them evened up on both sides. So I've got this. This is the knuckle that I just got done. And please excuse the really rudimentary engineering drawing I've got here. But anyway, this is our current knuckle. This is the one that I just got done with. All right, see? What I did was it's center to center from the ball joint hole to the tie rod hole. And then this is actually the unfinished one on the other side. This is actually stock, so center to center. This is where the Ackerman is about factory. This is about a 10-degree difference. Okay, and then this one is about even right here. See, this is about 1.25 inches in. This is about dead even with that side, well, except they're not really centered here. And then this is about 5 degrees Ackerman change. So what we've done is we basically cut it in half. So from 10 degree stock, it's down to 5 degree stock. So yeah. That way I can use that as an easy measurement to see whether the ones I'm doing, or this next one I'm doing, is even with the other side. So then that way we'll be all hunky-dory. So all done.
we got test car here. Dang old Miata. It's all right-hand drive Miata, and then I got these two faggots over here thumbing their bungholes. And so this is the knuckle that I kind of used as a base for what I decided to do. But as you can see, this one is quite a bit less Ackerman, and it's also quite a bit shorter than this. And as you can see, I probably did a much better job on actually like welding and getting the knuckle all kind of placed right. Look at that. That's just it's just beautiful. And then yeah, here we go. Look at that shit. All right.
Put that shit on a t-shirt.
Yeah. So we're gonna find out how much more angle this sucker will give, and figure out how it drives there. Well, kind of soon.
Yep.
Look at his eyeball. Look at it. Yeah, so we tried to put the knuckles on the car and had a lot of toe out. So we are shortening dirt tie rods. There's probably a better way to do this that people do, but people haven't been very forthcoming online about it. And I've asked some people, and they say they just, well, they just say they just cut the threads off, and I'm like, yeah, but it's still gonna bottom out right here. So we need more adjustment than that. So I'm gonna section out 1 inch out of the tie rod. I'm just gonna cut it and then re-weld it back together with my TIG welder. Yeah, could go wrong. Might be all right. We'll find out. Alright. 2 pieces, plus another piece. 3 pieces.
So 3 pieces.
Yeah, like 3. I mean, 1 plus 1, 3. Now I gotta straighten that sucker up, and I gotta straighten that sucker up. And then put some bevel on it. And then throw it in our little jig we made and weld it up. Alright, so this is what I've got set up as our little jig for reasonably straight. I think that's a pretty decent deal. Just have a couple vice grips holding this sucker still. I'm going to tack it. I'll tack once here and once on the other side, and then that should get me into the point to where they're straight, and then I can just weld them back up. Alright, so we just got it all installed, all ready to go. Now we have basically where it is straight. This is where the wheel is straight. This is what the blue knuckles, which were the other drift knuckles that from some other company, I don't know who they were. Something. And then this is my my new custom knuckle we just decided to make. Here, go pull the steering wheel over just a little bit more. Because, yeah, it settles a little bit different. But yeah, look at that. I think we're in the money.
Yeah, you definitely need to roll.
All right, fuck yeah. Cool. And then we're trailing is about right there. Sick nasty.
Sick nasty.
I think we did a good job.